Alrighty, to weave the easier way, we're just going to use these straight cuts. Now, if your paper gets messed up, you can always weave with a white paper. Same thing. If strips get lost, you can always weave with white strips. I made mine 1 inch thick, but it really doesn't matter how thick they are. Okay, so what you're going to do, if you follow exactly as I did, you should have 6 cuts in your paper. So what I do would look exactly the same for you. If you have a different amount of cuts, it will still work just fine, just your over-unders won't totally match up with mine. So it could get confusing, so I suggest cutting it the way I cut them. Okay, so I'm going to take my loom. I'm going to start on top, so then behind. So then I'm on top of this one, so I skip, like pull it so it goes behind. So it's in front of, behind, in front of, behind. Through. It's going to go in front of, and it's going to go behind, and then it's going to go in front of. Then I'm going to take it and I'm going to slide it on down. If it's easier for you to glue as you go, you can. It's going to start to lock in place, but I'm going to glue as I go just to make it a little easier. Now, as you can see here, let's double check before we glue, because it should start to look like a checkerboard. So you should have on top, below, on top, below, on top, below, on top. And what I mean by that is you see your strip, you see the board. You see your strip, you see the board, you see your strip, you see the board, you see your strip. This paper is your board. All right, once yours looks like that, you're going to take your glue stick and you're just going to put a little glue on the end and push. And the same thing on this side. A little glue on the end and push. Okay. Now, weaving is just going back and forth with patterns. So on this one over here, we started on top of the first time we went through. This time we're going to start from behind. And we'll go on top. And we'll go behind. And we'll go on top. When I'm going behind, I like to lift that strip up gently. Slide it behind. Then on top. And then behind. And then slide it on down. So if you're careful, you can flip it over to glue it, but I'm only going to glue every other one because they're going to kind of lock themselves into place. If you get gaps, it's fine. Even if your gap is kind of large, it's fine. Okay, I'm going to go down as far as I can though, but again, gaps don't really matter with this, it still works. Just some will have a looser weave and some will have a tighter weave. Okay, so let's double check. You should have behind and front, behind and front, behind and front, behind. So you should see your plate. Here you see your loom and the strip, the loom and the strip, the loom and the strip, loom. And so this is a plate or it's a loom. It's kind of the same thing. Okay. So then you take your strip here. And you're going to go, last time you started from behind, so this time you're going to start from in front. So that means behind this one, in front, behind this one, in front, behind this one, and in front. Slide it on down. Okay, so you should have in front, behind, in front, behind, in front, behind, in front. So you'll start to notice this kind of looking like a checkers board game or a chess board, and that's how you know you're doing it right. There are many different ways to weave with skipping different ones, but we're just doing the basic one for our first time. So if you make a mistake and yours doesn't look like this, just know you're not doing it wrong. You're just doing a different type of weave. But this type of weave is what's going to get you ready for some yarn weaving. Okay, so again, we're going to do the opposite. So we started from in front this last time, so we're going to start from behind this time. In front. Behind, in front. Behind, front. Behind. And slide it on down. Alrighty, then you're going to go into your next strip. So you should have the loom, the strip, the loom, the strip, the loom, the strip, the loom, or behind and front, behind and front, behind and front, behind. Okay, so last time around, we started behind. So this time we're going to start in front. And go behind, and go in front, and go behind, and go in front, and go behind. Slide it on down. Getting it over that fold could be a little tricky, so again, if you have a gap, no worries. Okay, since this is my one that ended on top, I'm going to glue it down first. I recommend gluing as you go on every other one like I'm doing, just because there's a little trick you can do at the end if things get too tricky. But again, it's no big deal because they do start to lock them all into place, so you can glue them after. Okay, so next we're going to go. Started last time in front, we're going to go behind. And we're going to go in front. And we're going to go behind. And we're going to go in front. And behind. And in front. And then behind. So what I'm going to start to do instead of counting each one is I'm just going to kind of pause my board every time so you can pause the video and you can double check if yours looks like this. And then I'm just going to keep moving on so the video is not super long. Okay. So one thing that you can do if you're running into trouble towards the end, it starts to get a little tight for weaving. One little trick that you can do is you can take your strips and you can just snip right all the way off. Now, I wouldn't do this unless everything was kind of glued down mostly. Otherwise, you run the risk of all of your strips falling out if you drop it. I mean, it's pretty easy to fix, so it's not the end of the world, but I'm just letting you know that I wouldn't do this unless I had glued some of them down. Okay, but now it's going to be a lot easier to go and do the others. So, all right, last time we started behind, so we're going to start in front this time. And now it's going to be a lot easier just to kind of pick these up. In front, so behind, in front, behind, and in front. I'm going to slide it on in. I'm going to take my glue, and again, they're not going to, once they're glued, they're not going to move, so it makes it a lot easier. Like that. Okay. So then we'll go from behind. Last time was in front, so we'll go behind, in front, behind, in front, behind, in front, behind, move it on down. Okay, take a peek. Okay, so I only gave you guys 9 strips because if you hadn't cut it, that's kind of the most that would fit. However, since we cut it, you might have room for an extra one, so you can always cut a white strip, or what I'm going to do at the end of the strip is I'm just going to trim it down. So what you're going to do is you're going to go opposite of what you did here. So you're going to start in front this time, go behind, in front, behind, in front, behind, in front. So again, you have a couple options. First, I'm going to glue this down though. Okay. So if you had another strip, you obviously could go right on to the edge here. I only gave you 9, so you'd probably have to cut one of your own. You're welcome to leave it kind of fringed. It's kind of cool like that. However, if it bothers you, you can just trim off the edge, take some scissors, and then just trim the extra. Right. Alright, and then you're going to glue everything down before. If you want to trim this, if this bugs you on this side over here, this big extra strip, you also will be able to trim that off too, but I wouldn't do that until everything's glued down, or your whole weave is going to kind of fall apart. So first, I'm going to make sure that these get glued down. Okay, so that's everything on this side. So I'm going to flip it over. First, I'm going to go up along here. So, and then I'm going to go along this edge here. Okay. Lastly, if you oops, got my scissors. But if you are like me and you cut a lot of that off, then you're also going to want to take some glue and stick down those greens. If you wanted to, you could cut right along your do not cut line, and then you would glue the same edgy things down again. I'm going to leave mine. I kind of like it. But yeah, after that, you are done. Nice job, and I can't wait to see them.